Thank you, Madam President. Can I first of all thank you for inviting me to become the Special Rapporteur to the Assembly on war crimes. However, it is shocking that in 2023, such an appointment should be necessary. In my capacity as Special Rapporteur, I have in the past year visited the International Criminal Court in The Hague, where I met the Deputy Prosecutor, the legal advisor, and the Special Assistant to the Prosecutor. I've also had meetings with the President of the Supreme Court of Ukraine and with senior judges, and I attended the special conference on the legal response to Russia's war, which was addressed by the head of the President's office in Ukraine and by the Attorney General of the United Kingdom. A year ago today, Russia invaded Ukraine in a blatant violation of international law, of Article 2 of the United Nations Charter, and of the Helsinki Final Act. Since then, there has been overwhelming evidence that Russia is guilty of war crimes, of crimes against humanity, of the crime of aggression, and of intended genocide. In October, the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine reported that war crimes, human rights violations, and international humanitarian law violations have been committed in Ukraine, with Russian forces responsible for the vast majority of identified violations. The OSCE report last April found clear patterns of violations of international humanitarian law by the Russian forces in their conduct of hostilities. A joint investigation team established by Lithuania, Poland, and Ukraine with the support of Eurojust and the Office of the Prosecutor of the ICC, which is issuing an update this morning as we speak, and a preliminary investigation by the ICC has already found that war crimes and crimes against humanity have been committed prior to 2022, including in both Crimea and Donbass, with evidence of willful killing, torture, rape, sham trials, and forced conscription. Ukraine's government has so far documented over 68,000 crimes of aggression and war crimes. According to UN OHCR data, almost 8 million Ukrainians have become refugees, and there have been over 18,000 civilian casualties, including more than 7,000 deaths. The Ukrainian government has recorded over 460 children killed and almost 1,000 injured. Civilians have frequently been targeted. In Mariupol, Russian forces bombed a theater where civilians were sheltering, killing 300. In Bucha, more than 360 civilians were killed and buried in mass graves. The UN OHCR has recorded over 100 cases of conflict-related sexual violence committed against Ukrainians, mostly women and girls. And over 2,500 education institutions, about 1,000 hospitals and medical institutions have been targeted by Russia, with 163 hospitals completely destroyed. In one case, Russian forces bombed a maternity hospital and children's ward in Mariupol several times, which the OSCE concluded was deliberate and was a war crime. Civilians have been subject to internment, forcible deportation, and separation from their families. Prisoners of war have suffered beatings, torture, the withholding of sanitation, food, and medical care. The Smithsonian Institute have identified over 1,600 incidents of damage to cultural sites. The Institute of Mass Information has documented over 470 crimes against media and journalists, including many threats, kidnappings, disappearances, and deaths. All of these constitute war crimes. The prosecution of those responsible will primarily be conducted by Ukraine. To support them and the Ukrainian domestic investigations, the UK, the EU, and the US last year established the Atrocity Crimes Advisory Group. Already, there are about 65,000 active cases under investigation. The majority will have to be tried in absentia. However, there have been 3 in-person convictions of Russian soldiers last year. In March last year, 43 countries initiated a state party referral to the International Criminal Court, and ICC investigators are collecting evidence for future prosecutions. However, the ICC is unable to bring convictions in absentia, and heads of state have immunity from prosecution. Successful prosecutions in the past have only achieved following the defeat of an aggressor, allowing those guilty of war crimes to be put on trial. It is widely accepted that it is not enough to prosecute those who have directly committed war crimes, but that the Russian government and its leadership who initiated this war must be held to account. Given the limitations on the ICC, this can best be done by bringing a prosecution for the crime of aggression in a special international tribunal. Such a proposal has received support from the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, the European Parliament, and the OSCE. A core group of countries is now looking at how to ensure criminal accountability, including the feasibility of a hybrid tribunal to integrate Ukraine's national justice system with international elements. This could also consider the legal basis under which Russia can be made to pay reparations to Ukraine and to finance its reconstruction, the cost of which is already estimated at $800 billion. Madam President, holding Russia to account for its crimes is going to require unprecedented legal measures, but this Assembly has already concluded justice must be done for the victims, for the people of Ukraine, and for the preservation of international law and the rules-based order. Thank you.